Was it worth it? I would say probably not.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Kind Not Nice podcast. It's been a while since we last posted, but we're doing a little holiday series. And if you're new here, this is the Kind Not Nice podcast. I'm Bianca, this is Grace, and here we talk about life, navigating New York, love and career topics, and much more. So follow along. In this episode, we're going to be doing a little wedding episode because Grace recently got married, and there's a lot of things that would love to know about the wedding planning and all the different retrospective thoughts that you had afterwards. So we'll start there.
That's right. We're going to do a wedding tell-all, as you will.
Yeah, all the deep secrets that Grace
and
had.
the drama.
And the drama.
The drama.
So kicking us off, we're going to be talking about the beginning part, the early stages of the wedding. So tell me about, like, what set the scene of the wedding? Like, when did you get proposed to? How did you start planning? When did you start planning? Tell me about the pre-wedding piece.
Yeah. Okay, so for everyone's background, the timeline was that we got engaged in October of 2023. Back then, we were actually still long distance. So I was living in Boston and Albert was in New York. Then in about April of 2024, I moved back to New York. And then we got officially married, like civil married, in August of 2024 at the New York courthouse, a courthouse wedding. Mm-hmm. Then we had our Chinese wedding ceremony. So that was like a lot of his family and his family's friends in China, actually in the southern part of China. So that was like 200 people or so in December of 2024. And then flash forward to November of 2025 is when we had our American wedding ceremony with all of our really close friends in New York.
And I think it's common nowadays to have like a cultural wedding, like that involves more of your family, and then more like a Western wedding that's more focused with friends.
Yeah.
That's what I've seen more. Yeah.
I really did like that part because I feel like our American ceremony was very fun and upbeat, and we could cater to our friend group. And then it was just good to, I don't know, separate the demographics and cater to two different needs and wants.
Zooming in on the American wedding that just took place in November, could you tell me about that planning process? Like, how did you choose your dress, all the different decor, all the different elements of the wedding?
Yeah, I would say people always talk about how much work planning a wedding is. And I think that is very true, even though I actually had the benefit. In hindsight, I probably chose the most straightforward process, which is I also had a planner and my venue also had an event coordinator, so that really helped. And I would say most of my work consisted of choosing the vendors in the beginning, so doing vendor selection. So I did that actually before our civil ceremony. I did that like in the summer of 2024, so I did that piece of the work about a year and a half ahead of time. That was helpful because I felt like I could still choose the vendors that I wanted. People were not booked out yet, so that was good timing. And then the rest of the work, most of the time I spent like the month and a half before the wedding, like finalizing the details of everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so was it like a full service wedding planner that helped you, or?
She was a full service planner, or that was how she described herself. I did feel like she was hands off towards the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that I realized about the wedding industry is because these people have gone through so many reps of it, all the vendors, they don't really feel a sense of urgency a year and a half before the wedding. Like the sense of urgency for them really comes the month before.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's their role a month and a half before? Did you feel like they're a lot better or more involved at that point?
Yeah, at that point, people are generally, at least if you choose the right vendors, they're fairly detail oriented and they just ask you for like the specifics of everything.
Do you recommend people to get one, or like what are your thoughts on it?
I think for me personally, I felt that it was ultimately worth it to get the planner that we had because it was only, not going into specifics, but it was only a couple $1,000s more than having a professional day of coordinator. So she did that component of it. Then considering the fact that she found us one of our vendors who ultimately saved us a couple $1,000s, and she did provide support before the wedding in terms of the logistics and things that I didn't really want to be hands-on. For example, like coordinating insurance or coordinating like parking permits. I feel like all of that added together and she did a good job as the coordinator, made it worth it. But in the beginning, I didn't have that feeling because I feel like she didn't have that sense of urgency that I had. But after everything was done, I felt like she did an overall good job.
How did you decide like she would be the one? It's just based off what people were saying on.
I liked her price and her vibe.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think it was also aligning on our approach towards the wedding.
Yeah.
So I told her that I wanted to have something like more minimal and more straightforward and like more simple, and I didn't want to overspend on things, and she was aligned with that approach, whereas I feel like some of the other planners that were introduced to me definitely were more all in, like, and not with a budget mindset.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, how about switching from wedding planner? How did you choose venue and also your like dress, the decorations, etc.?
Yeah, I would say the venue part was actually the hardest part for us in choosing the venue was actually location. So I was torn between having a wedding in Hawaii versus having a wedding in New York. And like something very personal happened to me, which is like my grandmother passed away, which is why we ultimately decided not to have the wedding in Hawaii, because the reason for that was because she lived in Hawaii at the time and it would have been more convenient for her. So after that happened, we settled on a wedding in New York, and I'm actually very happy with that decision ultimately, because it was very convenient to logistics wise on the day of to coordinate everything, and it made things more stress-free. Yeah.
And then how did you choose a venue like within New York?
I would say we looked online at a lot of different venues, as well as the pricing and the aesthetic. And our two, like for me, I was actually choosing between like more of a casual restaurant style wedding versus a more formal like evening style wedding, which is what we ultimately went with. And I think Albert, my husband, leaned towards the evening style wedding. So we decided on that. And then once that was decided, I sort of just knew that this was the venue for me.
Yeah. I remember when you were looking at them, you were deciding between like, you were seeing like the tiles on the walls and you're like, oh, this is like the vibe that you want. This is...
Yeah. It's very hard to describe because we actually looked at a lot of other like nice, beautiful venues, but somehow I just knew like this one was the one. Yeah.
And it was in the fall, which is really beautiful, the time that you chose.
Yeah, I knew I wanted my wedding to be in the fall.
Yeah. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And how about your dress and the decor?
Oh, I would say my dress was like non-traditional sort of shopping, so I didn't bring my family or friends with me because it seems like a lot to coordinate all of that. And I went to like, I would say 3 or 4 different bridal shops in New York before I settled on one from Wona Bridal, and luckily they had it just like brand new, unworn on sample sale. So like maybe one size too large, but that's obviously fixable with a tailor. Like they do that all the time. So I got very lucky with that. And also I would say for the dress, like when I tried it on, I sort of just knew somehow. Yeah, that was a very straightforward decision.
Nice. Sometimes it takes brides like months to find the right dress, but it's good that
I know.
it was quick for you.
I know. It took me like a few weeks, like maybe 10 to 20 dresses tried on. But when I tried that one on, I just knew.
Was it the style that you originally envisioned?
I knew that I wanted something in satin and something like New York feeling. And so, yeah.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if I envisioned it from the start, but once I tried it on, I knew that was the dress.
Yeah.
I
know. I remember the day that you're like, oh, I found my dress. And I was like, wait, what?
You're like, so fast?
Yeah. I didn't even know you were looking for dresses. Like, that was what I was thinking.
Yeah, I was really trying to like jam everything in. Like venue, book all the vendors, find my dress. And like, I did it all in a month and a half.
Was like, you didn't have to do that though. It's just you wanted to try to get like the big blocks done, or
it just seemed efficient to do. Our like photography and videography vendor, that was actually one that I was very like particular on because I just wanted the photos to come out a certain style, so it took me a long time to find the style of photography and videography that I wanted for the wedding. But I'm very happy with the initial set of like photos that came out, and I think it was the right decision.
What was the vision that you wanted for your photos?
Yeah, they're just like very elegant. I like the color grading of their photos. And it feels very natural in the moment, and I think they do a good job with light as well.
Yeah. And also the day of your wedding was sunny.
Yes.
How did you find them? Was it also through forums or?
It was just a lot of internet browsing, I think.
Yeah, like New York photographers, wedding photographers, like that type of.
I would say the deepest struggle with finding vendors is that for the wedding industry in New York is that there are just so many of them. And like the vendor review sites, it's very difficult to tell who does a good job or not a good job.
If you could break down like the different vendors
or
like the main vendors, wedding planner.
Yeah. Yes. So out of our total budget, I would say 50% of it went to the venue, but that was inclusive of food and beverage. Okay. So it was like 50% of that went to the venue, which included dinner, food, and everything. And we had a minimum that we had to hit for the venue because that's just the requirement for a popular date, Saturday in the fall. So that included other add-ons like dessert, raw bar, things like that. Yeah. Then 10% of it went to the photographer, videographer. I would definitely say that that was one of the vendors that I chose to be willing to spend a little more on. 10% of it went to florals. So we're at about 70% now, right? Yeah. A little over 5% of it went to the wedding planner. Okay. Yeah, so 75%. And then I'm trying to remember, the DJ, I think that one was actually less expensive than I thought, but we also had the string quartet. So I would say DJ and string quartet together came out to another 5%.
So we talked a lot about the planning part. Now let's turn it to like the day of the wedding. And so I want to hear about like what went well, what didn't go well, any mishaps.
Yeah, I would say, so one choice that we made early on in wedding planning was to not have any wedding party or like official wedding party. So that meant like no bachelor or bachelorette parties. That also meant like no getting ready as a large group, I would say. I mean, it doesn't have to mean that you can still get ready as a large group, but that was something. We did not get ready with a large group. We actually got ready in our apartment. And I personally really liked that because it felt a lot more zen. I think I'm someone who gets pretty overstimulated in large group settings. And so it just felt really nice to just have the morning to ourselves. And my mom actually came over, so it was just nice to like have it be more peaceful and private. And then obviously all the chaos of the wedding then starts at around noon when you start taking pictures. So then that was more normal. And I think while we were taking pictures, Albert was still trying to coordinate things, making sure all the inventory, like our stationery and things like that, was getting over properly to the wedding venue and making sure that like no boxes were left behind randomly somewhere. And then I would say one major mishap that could have been a huge issue actually is, so we rented these heaters because we had a string quartet playing, and they have certain requirements around after a certain temperature they need to have outdoor heaters, and then after a certain temperature they just can't play outside at all. And the heaters were not working on the day. Like they could not get them to turn on and work. And so that actually could have been a huge issue because the string quartet was playing for the ceremony. Like we would have just had no music if like they were just like, we're not going to do this. So I'm actually not close to how that one was resolved. I feel like, thank God, the string quartet agreed to play, and later on the heaters did come on, but that was a big one. Another pro tip is, so I did my hair and makeup trial like a year and a half in advance because I was quite picky about like the makeup and the style of it. But one thing that I realized was also really important was you need to sort of vibe with your makeup artist, or like because they are going to be, especially if you don't have bridesmaids or people around you, but still, they are going to be the one talking to you for like 2 hours on the morning of your wedding. So it sort of like sets a tone for the wedding.
Any other drama that happens?
I feel like with every wedding, at least for our wedding, the most difficult part to navigate was the family dynamics. And even though we did separate out our weddings, one was more meant for family and one was more meant for friends, it was still like sort of unavoidable that we ran into family drama. So I think for us, a very common one is, I'll just say it is like the mothers or like the moms will try to be more involved. I actually had dual issues, so I felt like my mom was not involved enough, and then I felt like his mom was too involved on the day of the wedding. So it was like trying to navigate that and not being too upset about it. And then the other thing that happened is that someone from my family invited another person without my permission, and I was pretty upset about that because I found that quite rude.
Okay, let's talk about the budget and money aspect of it.
Okay.
Could you tell me a bit about like, in terms of overall, like, was it worth it to you? Did you have money debates with your husband? Yeah, tell me more about that.
Yeah, I think we aligned on the budget very early on. I think it was just it's good that we set very clear expectations. So we were like, this would have been the budget for a restaurant style wedding, and this would be the budget for a like more evening style wedding. Yeah. And the good news is that we actually stayed within budget. Nice. We stayed within budget because we set a very realistic standard of what it would cost for the evening style wedding. Like it was based on reality.
And New York.
I think, and New York. Like I think a lot of couples run into issues where they exceed the budget that they're going for. But no, we did not. Like, we knew realistically what it would cost. So we set that expectation early. Was it worth it? I would say probably not when you consider the all-in cost. But it was a very special night. And, like, I think I really enjoyed the experience of bringing everyone together. But if you think about the overall dollars that we spent on it, personally, it would be hard for me to make that decision again. Yeah. But for me, I think I was convinced because my husband really wanted to have a wedding. And he wanted the evening style wedding. And obviously I love him. So I was roped into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Just being a nice wife, a kind wife.
Yeah. I'm so great. We had different impressions of what a wedding could entail, and I think for him, he did want to invite people from different areas of his life that were meaningful to him throughout all time, I guess. Yeah. And I think for me, I felt that I wanted to invite people who I'm still in touch with, like my closest friends now. So that was like probably why we also had different impressions of the guest count.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point. When I talk to friends who have planned weddings, it's like you have to evaluate if you want to have like the tier 1 friends that you have right now versus like the tier 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. And if you want like that like the friends that span your whole life, which is really adds up when you think about it.
I think that's like to each their own because I can see the reasoning behind that.
Yeah. So the last question that I'll ask you is about your post-wedding reflections. Like, were there any moments in the wedding that you like felt particularly like emotional or were like tearjerker moments for you?
The wedding itself, I was definitely really, really happy. Yeah. And I think that even surprised me because I am a wedding skeptic. Like, I don't believe, I like really going into it, I didn't really believe in the meaning of weddings. Like, I didn't believe that it would be worth the money. I still don't believe that. But, like, I didn't believe that it would be worth the money. I didn't see a huge purpose to it other than to, like, make my husband happy. But I was really, really happy on the day of the wedding that we could bring all of our closest friends together. Yeah. And so I was even surprised by that. Yeah.
And then how about, like, your mom's speech and, like, the different speeches that you had during the wedding?
Yeah, so the speeches were a surprise, as they should be, and thank you for giving a speech at our wedding, Bianca. So I thought the speeches were all executed really well. I think I was surprised at my mom's speech. I thought she did really, really great. I didn't know what she was going to talk about, but I did cry during that. I thought your speech was also really touching. And I thought some of Albert's friends and sibling speeches, those were the counterpart. So those were more funny and humorous. So I think they like played well on each other.
Yeah.
The overall dynamic. Yeah.
About the budget part.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any strategies like when you were planning to help like save money or stay within budget? Would love to hear those.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like my main pro tip is to, yes, go with the vendor that you want, like choose the vendor of the quality that you want, because otherwise I think you'll regret it. But also usually the vendors, once you lock them in, will let you upgrade later on. So go with the cheapest version of the package, the basics that you know you'll need, and then you can make the decision later on whether you want to upgrade the package or not. Because just lock them in for the date first and then make the decision later on how much higher you want to go in terms of budget. So that would be one of them. And then I think the other one is like, be willing to make some trade-offs in terms of what matters to you or doesn't matter to you. So one example of this is, I would say, let me think. For example, I was not very particular about having a very extravagant cake for the wedding. I think wedding cakes can be pricey, especially the multi-tier ones. So what we ended up doing is we got one from a local bakery that it was not actually specifically a wedding cake. It was just a white cake, and then they delivered it to the venue. It was still multi-tier. I think it did save us like significantly compared to like a real wedding cake, but it was fine. Like it was a white cake. It had great decorations and it tasted great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think the other thing that I would have been willing to cut on, personally for me, was I was considering doing a mix of silk and fresh florals, silk for some things and then fresh for others to save on costs. But ultimately what it came down to was the designs that I wanted were not available in silk, which is unfortunate. So I ultimately went with the designs that I wanted.
Yeah.
But I would have been willing to take the measure of doing half and half or something like that.
Yeah. What were the designs that you wanted?
I think the common things in silk florals that you can get would be a more standard pre-made arch, as well as certain like ceremony florals. But we decided towards the end to not do arch. We decided to do 2 pillars, and that required custom. Yeah, so our wedding did end up being all fresh florals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were beautiful. I love the flowers.
Thank you.
How did you decide on the pillars?
I think it was just, I felt like I was just thinking about our venue, looking at some floral inspiration online and what I liked, and I felt that the pillars, one, they're trendy right now, but two, it fit the aesthetic of the venue a little bit better than a full-on arch.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
And especially with the background that you had.
I think it was the context of the background, as well as we also had, so if you maybe insert a picture of the Prospect Park Boathouse, but like they also have these like column lights, and so there's already natural framing.
Yeah.
So I felt like the more vertical natural framing with the pillars would suit the background framing of the pillars better than like another dimension of having an arch.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. If you liked this content, please follow us at KindNotNice on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Spotify, and leave us a comment. Let us know your thoughts on my wedding tell-all, as you will.